Welcome to the C-Suite podcast with me, Graham Barrett. I'm here at the World Trade Center in Dubai for Seamless, an event that's been showcasing the future of fintechs and payments in the Middle East for the past 25 years. We're producing these episodes in partnership with BPC, a global payment solution provider that builds digital ecosystems which enable seamless payment experiences. I'll be sitting down with some of the speakers and attendees here on BPC's booth, and I really hope you enjoy these conversations. Joining me now is Usama Elsayed, who is Managing Director for MEA region at BPC. Usama, how are you?
I'm very good. Yourself?
Yeah, very well. You're a very busy man. You're always off for meetings and yeah. Well, that's what it's all about.
Do for a living.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, payments, as we know, we're here at Seamless. They're being digitally transformed, aren't they, across the MEA region in unprecedented rates. How do you see that at BPC, and what do you think could be done to drive even greater transformation?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think this is a very important question. Yes, definitely we see payments are transformed really very, very fast, and things are becoming even more sophisticated. Customers are more demanding. I mean, end users, consumers are now getting more acquainted, more familiar with the digital life, so they are their expectations are always on the rise. So we see huge movement in that space. However, we still believe there is a big room of more things to be done in that area. So when it comes to digital, you would find that on the one hand, consumers are demanding more convenience, more things to be done digitally, more enablement, and at the same time, there are still some areas that are still under digitized, if I put it this way, in many of the markets. So we still see a huge potential. I think organizations have done a lot in migrating and automating and digitizing the consumer experiences. However, there is a big room when it comes to B2B digitization, when it comes to the SME sector, for instance, which is a huge sector, a big potential. Merchants automation. So merchants, of course, there are a lot of enablement to be done there, not only for accepting consumer payments, but again, even the operations of the merchants themselves, a lot to be done in terms of digitizing, helping them to do even to achieve more efficiencies in their day-to-day operations, their cash management, their cash flow management, their financing demands, and so on. A lot of things to be done in that space as well. So in general, I think we see a lot of more things to happen in that very exciting, very fast-paced space.
Now, as you mentioned, the market, the region rather, is very unique, and it does have, very mature markets, underserved markets. How do you deal with that as a company, with those different characteristics across the region? It must be very difficult.
Yeah, of course. It's it's a thing that we are living day in and day out. The region is big, Middle East and Africa, and some countries and some markets are very mature. Even some sectors within some markets are quite advanced, quite matured, and some are still lagging behind, and they need a lot of support. So I think one of the great things about our technology in BPC is that it's quite broad, and it caters for almost all the requirements for various markets. So on the one end of the spectrum, we see the advanced and sophisticated markets. We have solutions and technologies to cater for things like the digital currency, the regulated digital currencies, the stable coins, all of the new technologies. Even now, we see a lot of demand on closed loop payment systems for some sophisticated use cases. So we have all this, and at the other end of the spectrum, we have solutions to enable mass payments and the automation of the masses. Like, for instance, the transportation sector that's big, underserved in many of the countries. There is a big demand for e-wallet solutions to enable the underserved populations. We have the agency banking, which is picking up in big ways in some of the markets. So yeah, I think this is one of the, although it drives a lot of challenges, however, with the technology of BPC, we cover it all.
A lot of adaptation of your services, aren't there, by the sounds of it? You know, that you've got to cater very differently for each market. Yeah, really interesting. Now, with this rapidly advancing transformation in the region, there does come an element of risk, doesn't there, with transformation happening so quickly? How do you mitigate those risks?
Well, thank you for asking this. This is exactly what would happen with all this, rapid transformation, rapid deployment of digital solutions. So definitely the digital has become a bit sophisticated, no doubt about it. However, fraudsters as well are, at the same time, they are also getting very sophisticated. So I think that's very key. It's very key to manage the risks. It's very key to keep the risks and the fraud activities as a very minimal at very minimal levels. Otherwise, you would lose the consumer trust, which is something definitely no one in the industry would like to happen. So, from our perspective as BBC, we see that fraud management and fraud prevention solutions and technologies are very important, very key, and they have to go hand in hand with the automation itself. And this is an area where we are leveraging the advancements in the AI space, specifically to be able to monitor trends and detect trends that are not normal within the hundreds of millions of transactions that are happening every day. So AI helps here in a tremendous way. So that's something that we are using with our systems.
Excellent. And let's just look forward. And maybe you could give me your opinion on where financial service companies should be investing in the coming weeks, months and years. What do you think about that?
Okay, I think financial industry and financial companies have been definitely putting more investments in digitizing their services to their consumers. However, I think they still look to do more in some of the spaces that require more attention. As I mentioned earlier, maybe the B2B space there is a lot to be done there, and the gains are very high. On the other hand, they need to be definitely investing in new emerging technologies, which I think they are going to be playing a main role in the advancement of this industry in the future. Things like AI, I believe everyone is of course talking about, and there are a lot of things happening in that space. However, we need to make sure those investments are being done at the right time and with the right speed. So in the payments space, it's very important we utilize AI in places like, or areas like the fraud deterring and fraud management, and places like the behavior, trend analysis of the consumer. What do they do more? What do they like more? In order to be able to position for them the right services and the right products at the right time and the right place. So those are so investment in the core technologies like AI is key. I think also in investment in what I would say the next generation of solutions, because a lot of the big financial services organizations have done a lot of investments long time ago. I think we are now going through a phase where those technologies have to be looked at differently, probably more upgraded, or sometimes replaced with newer technologies and technologies that could really cope with with what's happening and what's going to happen in the future. This is key. Some of the big organizations are still kept a little bit behind because of the legacy systems they are using. I think this is definitely high time those organizations need to look into refreshing their technologies and probably replacing to more modern and contemporary solutions.
Well, let's hope they heed that advice. Thank you very much for joining me on the podcast, Usama Elsayed.
Thank you so much. Pleasure is all ours. Thank you so much.
Very pleased to say that I've now been joined by Saif Khan, who is Head of Enterprise Digital Transformation at Emaar. Saif, how are you today?
Amazing, and thank you for the opportunity. Feels good to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you on the podcast. Well, I'm really keen just to talk about, as I said, you've only just started in your role at Emaar. So tell me a little bit about your journey first.
Well, I've been with digital transformation and IT, I think, all my life, right from the bachelor's to master's, and then having the opportunity to work across retail, automotive, and then, of course, real estate, the three big industries you get. I think all across my portfolio, you would see that customer experience, digital programs, and solving complex problems between systems has been always the key factor. And I think I was lucky enough to have the right set of mentors and people pushing me across different challenges and ensuring we deliver some really, impactful programs. Automotive is all about how do you manage customer experience and lead management. And if you see retail is about how do we capture, let's say, wholesale experiences and omni-channel experiences. And now moving into real estate, it's about how do we simplify and unify various systems that are involved in a big organization like Emaar. So really privileged and fun to be around. And I guess it takes a hit on you because you start seeing white hairs and gray hairs all over you. So yes, it does affect yourself.
And of course, that consolidation in terms of the different parts to Emaar is really part of the digital transformation journey that you're only just undertaking, I guess. What are your main priorities?
Well, I think I joined somewhere in Feb, and before joining, I had a quite bit of conversation with the management at Emaar. And as I stated, I think their vision and my vision aligned in terms of unifying the experiences not only outside for customers, but also internally for our internal stakeholders. Given that we have so many silo systems, I think one of my primary tasks is to unify all the experiences across various systems, and in that way we are bridging towards the two core aspects, which is an ERP aspect and which is a CRM aspect. So everything that we do needs to be circled across these two major, let's say, information setups or let's say ecosystems by themselves, and not go too much into silo problems in terms of, like, let's say RPA. If you need an automation, we start employing and plugging in all those modules and hybrid solutions and automations and forms, microsites. You don't need that if you have a very strong foundational base of in ERP and a CRM. Then you don't need such automations. You can all use native functionality of these tools. And I was reading in a survey at one point that in UAE market, if you see, the amount of big organizations who actually utilize even 70 or 60% of an ERP that they pay heavily for is not the case. You usually just get into a 20 and 30 and you feel, we are digitally transformed. That's not the case. There's a lot of work that needs to be constant across these systems, and that's what I'm now trying to get into.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a tremendous undertaking. I'm just keen to know, what will success look like for you?
Well, success would be, again, twofold here. One success would be to ensure we decommission a lot of unwanted systems, save some money, and that's really important aspect of ensuring we have a good, strong infrastructure in place. Another one would be the amount of productivity and, let's say, analytics that we currently get and the amount of time we invest in getting that, I would like to bring that by half. So the moment you stop relying on too much of manual Excel work and rather focus on BI, and going forward you look into predictive analysis, which is across all over the organizations here, these things only work when you have a very solid base. So my main success would be, okay, I need to unify and simplify the ecosystem, and then hopefully during this you would see that the customers will start seeing a faster service, a better seamless experience into the services that we as Emaar provide.
Yeah, well, that last point is exactly what I was going to ask you next. How is this going to change the face of the organization from a client and customer perspective? What changes are they going to see with all your internal work?
Well, to be honest, the customers for this year, I would say, won't be seeing that much of an impact because we are trying to internally, develop a better ecosystem that would power the future of customers and their experiences. But at the end, you would see them that their operational element would be very seamless. So anything you do from an app to your statement of accounts or to your experiences in having amenities, being part of an let's say community, all of these experiences would be so seamless and unified that it doesn't matter if you do it through an email, you do it through a phone, you do it through an app, everything is going to take you the same amount of response time. And that's something we would like to measure.
Sure. And from that kind of seamless experience, I'm keen to just pick up what we're talking about in all of these conversations at Seamless, this event, is about the payment experience as well, and the future of payments, how payments are developing. So talk to me about how payments work at Emaar.
Well, look, we provide a various degree of concierge services, from paying online to checks to kiosks. And given the nature of business, it's very personal. And when you're investing in Emaar, it's about investing in a relationship with us. So we take that very seriously. So at different levels, we have provided a lot of concierge services where a customer can go and present himself with multiple modes of payments. We're doing also venturing out into seeing how various cryptocurrencies can be actually used with the regulatory governance as mode of payment. So there's a lot of work which is in, let's call it, research and development, and that would most probably set us for the future at Emaar.
Yeah. No, that's brilliant to hear. Well, best of luck with all of this digital transformation. I'm sure your customers and clients are going to see, a huge change, once your work has been done there. So wish you all the best. And Saif Khan, thanks so much for joining me on the podcast.
Thank you, Graham. Pleasure to be around, and thank you for this.
Yeah, I'm pleased to say that I'm now joined by Adil Belhouari, who is Senior Vice President, Head of AI Analytics and Data Science at Riyad Bank. Adil, how are you today?
Great. I'm happy being with you today.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us. Now, tell me more about this Centre of Intelligence then at Riyad Bank that you run. What's that all about?
Yeah, I'm spearheading Riyad Bank Centre of Intelligence, who is the first specialized Centre of Excellence focusing on using the cutting-edge technologies like AI, data science, analytics to help banks and organizations generating value, all types of activities, as well as aligning with their business strategies. So Riyad Bank launched its first Center of Intelligence last year, and we already start realizing a lot of value out of this investment and this visionary decision that have been done by Riyad Bank.
Well, that ties in quite nicely with your session here at Seamless, which is all about harnessing data, AI, and machine learning in financial services. So how do you see these technologies transforming financial services and customer experiences?
Of course, all what is happening today in the ecosystem and the dynamics in the market, they are shaping the way organizations, they are taking decisions and they are implementing and interacting with their customers. So what is happening today in big data, IoTs, virtual reality, digital transformation, all this is changing the way organizations should prioritize, should engage with their customers. So I think that organizations or the leading organizations should react quickly to this change, to this transformation of the ecosystem. And I believe that the main game changer here is the intelligence on the top of how the organization is dealing with its customers and its partners. So the intelligence, including artificial intelligence, analytics, data science, I think is the differentiator for leading companies to continue being in the highest ranks in terms of creativity and innovation.
Now, there's always a tension, isn't there, between rapid innovation and risk and compliance. How are you navigating that tension at Riyad Bank?
I don't think that this is tension. It's more into integrate. We need to integrate innovation with governance and risk management. So, as you know, if you want to innovate, if you want to create, to be creative, you need to take risk. You need to do experimentations, and experimentations might succeed and might fail. So we need to start by accepting the fact that some experimentations might fail. So this is one risk. The other risk is how we are in Riyad Bank now managing or embracing and integrating risk with innovation through our governance framework. So we are embedding governance, ethical AI standards, and also regulatory requirement part of our innovation journey.
Excellent. Now, looking past kind of traditional card payments to the future of payments acceptance, something that's a big talking point here at Seamless, what kind of solutions do you believe will drive the next big leap for bank-merchant relationships?
I think deeply that embedded finance, fintech, and using the power of agentic AI will be the main solutions that will reshape the way the payment is done worldwide, as well as the way the organizations will be interacting with their customers, elevating the level of maturity and elevating as well the quality of service they are offering to their customers. So mainly open finance, creating APIs that are integrating all the services between different platforms will be the future of payment in the sector and in the industry.
Let's look into the future a little bit and talk about what initiatives you think are going to be most important for you and Riyad Bank as a whole over the next 18 months.
So, of course, we will continue our journey and our initiative in improving the use of Gen AI, conversational AI, agentic AI to enhance the interaction with our customers. And also our main objective will be the hyper-personalization of our offering to our customers through the next best offer, next best action, powered by AI and by data science and advanced analytics. The second one is to leverage the power of data and cutting-edge technologies to enhance fraud prevention and risk management, as well as pricing, dynamic pricing activities. So I think that this will be the main initiatives looking forward in Riyad Bank, using the power of AI, using as well leveraging the enablement from the Center of Intelligence.
You've certainly got a lot on your plate for the next 18 months. Adil Belhouari, thanks so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thanks.
Okay, joining me now is Kareem Abdel-Rahman, who is Head of Global Transaction Banking at QNB Egypt. Kareem, how are you today?
Hi, Graham. So nice to meet you.
Thank you very much for joining me on the podcast.
My pleasure.
I understand it's your first time, so we're
Yes.
honoured that you're choosing the C-Suite podcast as your first podcast. Thank you so much. Now, I'd like to talk to you about your session here at Seamless to start with. It's all about evolving trends in trade finance, isn't it? So what kind of digital infrastructure do you need to kind of further that? And how do you think that session will go?
Yes. When we think about the future of trade finance in the Middle East and Africa, and this is my scope in my presentation, The concept can be delivered into two parts.
Okay.
The future of trade and the future of finance. When we see as a future of trade, we need to move on from the traditional ways that the exporters in the time being in the Middle East and Africa take to attract the importers or buyers outside their countries to new tools. The existing method like B2B meetings, like exhibition, like trade mission, it's okay, but we need more from that. So I believe that we need in our region, Middle East and Africa, to introduce an ecosystem, the digital trade finance ecosystem or e-commerce platform based or tailored to our regions. Like Alibaba for China, if you want.
Yeah.
And the second part, it's related to finance. The existing trade finance tool, we use letter of credit, documentary collection, but it's not matching the need of the dynamic atmosphere in the world. It's need a lot of documentation, process, time, cost. So we need an innovative tools like bank payment digital undertaking based or using blockchain platform. So that's what I see for the future of trade finance.
And how would a MENA Africa-wide e-commerce system, how would that look in practice?
It will work as a trusted B2B platform, including the buyer and the seller, the logistics companies, the insurance companies, and also the banks. This is the main infrastructure what I propose, and it's my vision for trade finance to use it in our region. One platform used by each country, by all countries, and including all parties.
Now, as I said, we're here at Seamless, and much of the talk at Seamless this year is about being always on, mobile first, hyper-personalization, all these kind of buzz phrases. In the context of trade finance specifically, because obviously that's what you're here to talk about, which three technologies do you think banks should prioritize in 2025?
Maybe the first one will be the AI. It's a hot topic now, and we can use it in trade finance for analyze the data to determine the risks for our customers, and also to determine the opportunity. But at the same time, we need to ensure that the data is secured and the privacy of our clients' data is okay. This is the first technology. The second, it's about the blockchain and how to introduce the blockchain to integrate all systems together, banks and buyers and sellers and insurance and logistics companies and customs also. But not the responsibility for the banks only to introduce the blockchain. It's an ecosystem between all parties, and it needs a collaboration between all parties.
A final question for you around Egypt itself. Why do you believe that Egypt is well positioned to lead the future of digital trade finance, and how is it going to do it?
Sure, Egypt can do it. For sure, by collaboration with all countries in Middle East and Africa, Egypt can do it, and it's based on existing factors. When you see our strategic location between East and West and Suez Canal, and the big infrastructure that the government invests in all roads and ports, dry ports, new area of investment, industries in zone. So we have a lot of investment in infrastructure. Also, we have people. We have almost over 100 million people that most of them is young and talented, innovative. So it is our main power. Yani. But all of that will be through the collaboration between Egypt and all remaining Middle East and African countries.
Well, no, that sounds like, yeah, it's certainly well positioned, isn't it, geographically, and with all that kind of infrastructure as well, it does seem to be in a very good place.
The location is important for sure, but we don't rely on only our geographical positions. We invest heavily in infrastructure and how to improve it during the past years. So we have the power and we can. But we can in cooperation with all countries in Middle East and Africa.
Well, Kareem, Abdel-Rahman, thank you very much for joining me on the podcast and explaining those issues.
Thank you, Saif.
I'm joined now by AbdelRaouf Hussein, who is CEO of Smart Cards Applications Company. AbdelRaouf, thanks for joining me on the podcast.
Thank you very much, Hussein. It's a pleasure.
Great. Start with an introduction to Smart Cards Applications Company for those who don't know them.
Yeah. Smart Card Application Company is founded in 2005. The company is a processor for a closed-loop payment program, which is related to the social benefits. Could be the two major benefits are the bread distribution and food stamp. So basically, we have around more than 60,000 merchants with 100,000 POS and 24 million cards. We process them every day. So basically, the people, they will be able to get their benefits, which is basically the food stamp and the bread. And we are doing something like 30 million transactions a day, which is around 420 million transactions a month. So this is a closed loop. Currently, we got the license to be a PSP and payment facilitator and payment aggregator for the international local card scheme. So we are going to open these POS to card acceptance and other payment tool as well. We have our basically daughter company, which is basically a payment company. We are installing their payment bill payment application on these POS to enable the consumer to pay their bills, get their cash. And that's how we are going to evolve.
And what we're keen to hear about is the payment space in Egypt, which I know has been completely transformed over the past few years.
Yeah.
What are the key factors behind that transformation?
I think the key factor behind this transformation is the vision of the Central Bank of Egypt. That's one. They license a lot of payment aggregator and payment facilitator, which basically reach new merchant segment that the banks were not able to reach. So basically, starting from 2019, we start to see new players in terms of payment aggregator and facilitator. And the number of merchants around 2019 were around 140,000 merchants. The number of merchants was basically now the number of merchants is around 1,100,000 merchants. In the same area, the moving the people to card and the establishment of the local scheme in Egypt, which is basically MISA, encouraged a lot of banks to issue their cards with a lower fees than the international card scheme. So basically, this encouraged the bank to issue more cards for segments like pension and salaries. Which basically impacted the payment. The other thing was basically the wallet. The wallet also has enabled mBank to move to the payment space and to be able to pay a lot of transactions through the wallet. And recently, InstaPay, which basically is doing a great job in Egypt, which basically enable person-to-person payment. And this is going to be, I think, in my opinion, this is going to be future, because this will enable people to pay directly their transactions.
So I guess the question is why? Why is that a more favourable way of paying? You were telling me before we start this interview how that Instapay has completely exploded in Egypt, and it's hugely popular. Why do you think that is? Why has that taken off ahead of cards or other forms of payment?
I cannot say that is moving ahead of cards. The card is doing very well. However, it's a convenient way of payment. You don't need a POS in the transaction. You just need to pay a person without a POS. If you have, that's basically how it is. It's a very simple way, a simple form of payment, where you can transfer or pay your goods and services by sending the fund to a card, to a wallet, or to a bank account. So basically, that's a very simple way of paying.
From a technology perspective, what are the kind of 2 or 3 technologies that are really important to progress this space even further?
I think the major thing which happened recently is basically enabling Apple Pay to be accepted on our POS in Egypt, and it's going to be followed, I think, by Samsung Pay. So that's this technology, which is basically enabled recently in Egypt, is going to have a major impact on the payment, and will increase mobile payment as well. I think the major thing that basically it will have a role, but I don't know when. It could be the soft POS. Soft POS is going to have a role because it's going to be more convenient than the normal POS.
And let's just bring this conversation full circle to Smart Cards Applications Company.
Yeah.
What are you focused on in the next 12 to 18 months? What are the key initiatives you're looking at?
We need to start our business as a payment facilitator and payment aggregator. That's a major focus. We believe that this will enable will position the Smart Card Application Company in a different way. Also, we need to start our business in the cash in and cash out, and leverage for our merchant network to provide cash in and cash out, which will complement InstaPay. Because at the end of the day, people will get their money, and they need to disperse it. So it's to be easier for them to go to a POS or a merchant to get their money, rather than go to an ATM. And with our big merchant network, we'll be able to provide the services, and it's going to be a good service that I think is going to position Smart Card Application Company differently.
AbdelRaouf, Hussein, thank you for sharing those insights. Thank you for taking me through the payment space in Egypt. Thank you for joining me on the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, pleased to say that I've now been joined by Rob Silsbury. He's VP Marketing and E-Commerce at Alshaya Group. Rob, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for joining me on the podcast. And you've just come from one of the keynote sessions, haven't you, around customer journey excellence?
I have.
Tell me a little bit about that. How did that go down?
Look, I've been around a little while, and I've seen different things come and go, and generally things move in cycles, right? And they just come back every year with a different wrapper and a different name. It wasn't that long ago we were all talking about big data. Now it's AI, and what kind of makes me chuckle a little bit now with a lot of the AI conversations, apart from the fact that AI is still very new and novel, and therefore a lot of it is just kind of fluff and kind of, ooh, nice to know, as opposed to actually being consequential. It's just this notion of practicality and making sure that what you're doing has got some kind of tangible gain to it. That is more important now than it's ever been before, because that notion of chasing rainbows and essentially having something cool to talk about at a conference doesn't mean good business. You can talk about a single customer view, as we have been for the last 8 or 9 years, until you're blue in the face. Still no one's really nailed that. Fractional attribution is still a conversation that everyone's having. Now it's all about AI, and at the moment it's generative. Next it'll be agentive. So there's always a new buzzword, a new wrapper on the same subject, but ultimately practical application of good old-fashioned common sense in the customer journey is still there. Is still the most important thing. And making sure that as a marketer, as an e-commerce person, as a retailer in general, you're able to really cut through the noise and find the things that are going to be actionable and tangible. I think that's really a skill now that people need to have more than ever before.
Sure. And on that note of e-commerce, what are the main e-commerce challenges at Alshaya Group, and how are you addressing them?
Pace, I think, our ambition is always far outweighing our ability to execute in terms of speed. We've got a to-do list as long as not just one of our arms, but both of them, and many other limbs as well. So we've got a huge ambition over the coming years to grow our online business, but of course grow it as a part of a much bigger story. We're not going to grow our online business to the detriment of anything else. So even with my e-commerce hat on, do I want to, in 3 years' time, have a greater share of the business coming from e-com, or do I want the overall business to be way bigger and the ratios of what's done online and offline may well stay the same? Well, I'll take that all day long. So at the moment, the share of business that we do online is very much in line with this region, maybe slightly behind what you see in Europe, which is still a more mature market. But as I was saying on one of the sessions yesterday, when I arrived here 4 years ago, I think it was very fair to say that the Middle East as a whole, from an e-commerce point of view, was maybe 5 or 6 years behind where we were in Central Europe, and I came over from London. But over the last 2 years, I think, in the sort of post-COVID era, we've really caught up. And I don't think e-commerce as a discipline here within the sort of omnichannel retail environment is now any less sophisticated than you'd find in Central Europe. In fact, in many ways, I think we're beginning to exceed Europe, especially when it comes to things like, delivery expectation and service expectation. The high street out here, or the malls, are not dead. They're not dying, they're alive and kicking. So, the need for e-commerce to be, fantastic, to compete against a very vibrant, physical estate is really important. But also that appreciation of the fact that a digital journey in many ways is a big part of the journey. You don't have people that buy online and people that buy offline. You have people that buy. And we've been, I think, quite forward-thinking in our recognition of that omnichannel and holistic journey to a point where what we need to do in a common sense, practical way is really recognise that the trick is joining the dots and understanding the value of our digital estate in terms of how much qualitative footfall it drives is as important as driving qualitative footfall in its own, in its own silo, if you like. So, yeah, I think certainly we'd always like to go faster. Certainly, we'd always like to be better than we are. But I think we're really motoring at the moment, and we've got some amazing projects on our to-do list and some amazing, exciting developments and brands and projects that we are already well in flight with. Some are already live and some will be live very soon, so it's a very exciting time to be in retail.
It is exciting times. Talk to me about the customer experience side of things as well. I'm going to throw out another buzz phrase now: hyper-personalised customer experiences.
Hyper-personalised customer experience.
I mean, can we break that down at all and figure out what that might mean for someone like Alshaya?
Oh, I don't know. I think the word hype has just been banged on to kind of make it sound a little bit more exciting than it is. But personalisation is personalisation, right? And you either do it well or you do it badly. I think the danger with labelling something hyper creates a kind of obsession that's kind of unhealthy. And as with most things, you can go too far, especially if you haven't got it right. So, the notion of, if hyper-personalization is things like, adapting an entire online experience right down to the product that you're seeing on a grid to an individual, that's great in theory, as long as you get it right. But if you're going to start restricting the type of product that an individual sees because you think you know them better than you do, you'll start to take away things that change their behaviour and arguably impact the conversion rate. So
you can't second guess too much, I guess.
I think so. It's like the old days in marketing where you talked about things that are spooky or creepy. When retargeting started to chase people around the internet with personalised carousel-based ads based on things you'd looked at. And then the clever people realised that showing people things that they didn't buy when they saw them wasn't that clever, and actually what you should do is apply predictive analytics to the same tool set and show people things that they didn't see and may have bought if they did. But yeah, look, I think with everything, if you go too far and you haven't been thorough enough in your approach, it can be ultimately quite destructive. So I don't really know what hyper-personalization means to most people, but for me and to us at Alshaya, personalization remains an incredibly important part of what we do. Incredibly important out here in the Middle East, because each of the countries that make up the Middle East are very, very different. And unless you are respectful for those different territories and you treat them all in the way that they need to be respected, certainly with different dialects of the Arabic language, for example, then you're going to fail. So, I think if I could sum up and answer your question succinctly, it would be our ambition always exceeds our ability to do it as quick as we want, and our ability to focus on the things that are going to deliver the most tangible gain will always be a challenge, but I think we're getting it right.
Excellent. Let's finish up with payments, because that's what we're asking all of our guests here about, the kind of payment experience at their various organisations. Now, obviously, there's a whole slew of new payment methods available to customers and to brands at the moment. Buy now, pay later, wallets, account to account. How are you kind of assessing all of these different pay methods and deciding which ones should be put into play?
For us, we employ all of the main ingredients that you would expect from a seamless payment solution for customers, which is essentially giving them the ability to buy in any way that they choose, right? So do we have buy now, pay later? Yes, we do. Do we offer cash on delivery? Yes, we do. Do we take every relevant major credit card in any of the markets that we serve? Yes, we do. Do we have Apple Pay? Yes, we do. I think, without wanting to sound overly simplistic, our approach to payment types there's obviously a financial element to it in terms of making sure you've got the right deal with all the different payment providers that you're using. There's obviously the user experience of making sure that those payment types are integrated properly into whatever the experience is, whether it's an online experience or an offline experience. And it's not smothering the consumer with too many things that are very, very similar. Do you want 6 different buy now, pay later providers to be available in your basket process, for example? And I'd suggest the answer is perhaps not, although maybe it's different for other retailers. But is it important to have every single one of those doors open for your consumer? Absolutely, because the more doors that you close, the impact on your conversion rate is going to be ever greater. But I think one of our big focuses at the moment is through our loyalty scheme, Aura, which is fantastic, and if you haven't downloaded it, you must do immediately. It's definitely, we think, a world-leading, and we've been recognised as it being a world-leading loyalty scheme very recently. The notion of digital wallets for us is really a focal point. So making sure that an Alshaya customer, whichever brands they are shopping with across our vast and fantastic portfolio of brands, that the notion of completing a transaction effortlessly, we would like to think in the future is going to revolve more and more around an Alshaya digital wallet embedded in our loyalty scheme.
I will download that loyalty program.
You must.
Straight after this interview. Rob Silsbury, thank you for your time and insights today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Really hope you've enjoyed these conversations from BPC's booth here at Seamless in Dubai. If you have enjoyed this episode, please do give us a positive rating and review on your podcast app of choice. And if you want to get in touch with the show, you can do that via the contact form at csuitepodcast.com. Alternatively, you can find me, Graham Barrett, on LinkedIn. But for now, thank you for listening and goodbye.